Hey everyone, welcome back to the Miles for Minutes podcast. Today we're going to be discussing just a quick short one, but it's going to be a strong one. The topic on the table today is one that I feel extremely passionate about, and I know it is going to get heated in the comments. So we're going to be discussing historical analysis and historical inaccuracies that have arisen among our history classes. Within the past few years, many have begun criticizing the education plans that states are providing for the public, especially when it comes to our history classes, because the way that young Americans perceive history determines how they'll be motivated to shape our future. Classes and textbooks tend to share a single perspective narrative, or from the winner's point of view, as many may casually say. Yet, as we're learning more about the true nuances that are happening in life, we're getting this understanding that what we were taught is not necessarily a fact. What we've been taught is not necessarily fact. Censoring our education is a counterproductive practice. It could potentially set our community back by generations with this spread of false information. And according to NPR, Texas was definitely in the hot seat for pushing a more conservative narrative in their textbooks. It definitely downplayed the role of slavery back in the Civil War. In 2015, Texas downplayed the narrative of slavery in the Civil War. This event led to a conversation about how accurate our history classes have been, and what is the importance of this accuracy, and what is that impact on our society. We know that as 2020 is coming to a close, it's clear that there are definitely still issues happening, like racism. They have an impact on our modern day society, as we are still fighting for the same rights to this day. We're not going to have racial equality until we have a definite understanding as a society where racism originated from, to be able to stop perpetuating it into the future by understanding how it has impacted our structure as a society, as structure among our society. For example, the systematic racism that our police force has shown through various acts of violence. Many different events have been documented, and there were a ton of protests that happened this summer. There are lots of different channels and such YouTube channels that I will link a few down below, that goes to the primary sources of these events. And that's exactly it. Things that we were taught necessarily in school, like primary sources or primary, secondary, tertiary sources, we're supposed to be taught these skills and understanding to be able to be critical of our surroundings. So if we take these very skills that they have taught us in school, flip it back on them, and assess what they're teaching, we're kind of getting this understanding that the truth is not exactly how it's been presented to us. And something like confirmation bias, it's a common phenomenon that can cloud readers' judgment as they're analyzing different pieces of texts. This is going to potentially lead them to cherry pick certain moments, and this is something that we cannot allow. We cannot allow an author's political or personal moral values to have an impact on the truth, or as close as we can apprehend from the truth based on the evidence that we see present, that was left in our past. What we can determine was the truth of that situation. We can't let our feelings or our moral values or what we think happened, because we weren't there, we can't let that determine what we write as our history. So whether the reader is conservative or liberal, analyzing all of our past, it should remain fact that slavery and racism led to a division among the states, and eventually a civil war, because that is a fact. It is not something that should be downplayed or whitewashed or it shouldn't be minimized in any sense of the word, because these issues of racism are still prevalent to this day. We are witnessing men and women who are equals to you and I. We are witnessing so many varieties of people, varieties of minorities being like threatened and hurt and killed, and it is not correct. It is not something that I will stand by and let happen. So I will speak up, and I'll sit here and have this discussion with you guys today, because systematic racism during the developmental years, or the racism being prevalent during the developmental years of our country, led to it being heavily integrated into our society. Whether that is something that we wanted to be a part of our culture or not, it has become a part of us, and we need to do something to put a stop to it. The only way that we're going to be able to end it is by... The only way we're going to be able to end racism is by understanding the truth of what happened in America's past, and to learn from the situation. Historical analysis without a reader's bias in mind is extremely difficult. It requires to be a trained individual to be able to read the truth of a situation, and to take your textbooks that are provided to you with a grain of salt. And for all claims and beliefs and that you have, make sure to find several sources to back up what you're talking about. So yeah, that's all I have for today. That is not... I could continue talking, but I'm going to cut it off here. This has been Miles for Minutes. I hope that you come back and watch soon, because I had a good time. Thank you, and have a good night.